Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Danielle. I am a graphic designer and illustrator and the founder of Zuri Dre. Today's video is going to be a little different. We're doing a pod vlog. I got the idea from Erin on Demand on YouTube as well as all her other social media platforms. So in this vlog, it's really just going to be me talking and showing you the process that came about in regards to working on designs for a new product. To give you a bit of a backstory, I am a graphic designer and illustrator by trade, graduated in 2011 with a graphic design diploma, so I do have a little bit of a leg up in that sense. I've been doing this for over a decade, but I just want to give you guys some ideas and things to think about when you're designing products. So today we're working on explorations for apparel. I've never done apparel for this brand in this context before. I have done apparel in the past, print on demand apparel, ordering things. I do have t-shirts currently on my website, but they weren't meant for Zuri Dre. It was meant for my illustrative DM Cox work. So this is definitely something new for this specific brand. And if you've seen my products before, you know I sell plush dolls, plushies, home decor, accessories, stationery. But I wanted to create something that someone could wear, someone can rock, and support the brand that wasn't necessarily youthful or animated, more of a generic look. So the concept for these ideas is the varsity style hoodie or sweatshirt or crew neck. So based off of that concept, I wanted to make sure that I'm using fonts that are similar to what are already used, so more of like a slab serif font. That's the kind of classification of this font or some of the fonts I'm using. Nonetheless, I wanted to make sure the font is bold. The biggest thing I wanted to showcase, of course, was the name of the brand because that is the most important part. So I'm working on different concepts on showing that, whether the font is rounded at the top with a flat surface at the bottom. Maybe it's quite large and huge. I'm working on different ways to showcase the name. Now, the color of the fonts and the color of the crew neck aren't final. This is really just my exploration phase on playing around with things and seeing what I like, what I don't like, what makes the most sense and what doesn't. And the reason actually why they're placed in that layout is because I do export these as stories and I post them on my stories on social media so I can get community feedback and see what people think. So in regards to the concept, we're working on varsity, and generally speaking, varsity type of clothing, apparel, etc. has, of course, like it would have the name of the school, and then it has supporting information and text. So it's not too boring. Sometimes it can just have the name of the school, but I wanted to add a little bit more to it to give it a little bit more pizzazz, I guess you could say. So other than the name, I'm including either symbols related to the brand. So for me specifically, like the X and the O are very much part of my brand. If you see my dolls, you'd understand because the actual buttons that are on the dolls are based off of the X and O. So we're playing around with different symbols, different concepts. We're playing around with color, of course. And the idea is that these would be embroidered. So I want to make it as nice but as simple as possible because embroidery does have its limits. So of course the name is big. We have other concepts like showcasing the established date, which you see a lot with varsity items. And I wanted to add something to it that made it seem more like it's varsity school gear. So I added like maybe the athleisure club concept, but I still wanted to make sure that I was true to the Zuri Dre brand. So I added that line of celebrating uniqueness, which is part of my motto or part of my mission statement. And then I also had the idea of a star maybe. So the exploration phase is always probably the most fun because you can really do whatever you want. Play around with it, see how you like it, see what makes the most sense. Sometimes things look ridiculous and that's okay because that's part of the brainstorming exploration process. It doesn't need to be perfect right now. And it probably will never be perfect, to be quite honest with you. But you always want to make sure that you focus or have a focus on your main item. So for me, the main item is the name. You want to make sure you're adapting and creating the design that would work for the end result. So as I said, the end result for me is going to be embroidery. So I can't have things too small or I can't have things too close together because it might get lost in translation when it comes time to actually have the piece made because we're working with thread when it comes to embroidery. So it's not silk screen or it's not going to be direct to garment printed. So there are some not necessarily limitations, but I guess restrictions that you have to keep in mind when you're working on things. So you want things to be bold, clear, have enough spacing between the letters, and making sure that your color choices work well, not just on screen, but in the final result. So keeping in mind the color choice is going to be something that pops, is vibrant, but still works as a thread color. So anytime you're working on a design, yes, you want to showcase your brand, you want to showcase your style, you want to showcase any elements that are related to the brand and what you normally do. Maybe you want to spice things up a bit, that's fine, but always keep in mind the end result. If it's going to be printed on paper, keeping in mind it's going to be darker as a print than it is on screen, because screen is always going to be brighter because we have the backlit, right? If it's going to be screen printed as apparel, then of course you have the aspect of the color changes and the limitations of that, or the amount of colors you can actually use. If it's direct to garment print, that's a whole other set of restrictions, or maybe even less restrictions, but you always want to make sure that regardless of the designs you're creating, and as true as they are to your brand, that you're also thinking of the end result, which is what is it going to look like, or what are my restrictions for when it's all done. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.